Well, look, Australians and indeed civilised people around the world must wonder where democracy is heading when they witness violent protests here and overseas. It seems the days of rational debate are over. If you don't like a government decision, take to the streets with violent behaviour, violent language and violent consequences. We've seen this last week in America following a Supreme Court decision, and yet again in Australian streets more of the same. An outfit called Blockade Australia says it will embrace more unauthorised protests, and they were at it again today. The mob yesterday numbered about 60, converging on Hyde Park about 8 a.m, dispensing themselves across the streets, getting in the way of traffic at 8 o'clock in the morning when people are trying to get to work, and making use of any object in their path, chairs, sandwich boards, traffic barricades. A young woman parked her car across the northern entrance to the Harbour Tunnel. And have a look at that picture there. You can get an idea. That's at the northern entrance to the tunnel. She put a bike lock, I won't show you this picture, a bike lock around her neck and then linked her neck to the steering wheel. She was identified by Blockade Australia as a 22-year-old Lismore resident. All this was live streamed by the 22-year-old, who then said, quote, "To those people who are really angry right now, I understand. It's not a good thing to be experiencing. You know what?" she said. "Climate change isn't a good thing to be experiencing. I've watched much devastation with 2 1-in-100-year floods. This is climate change. I cannot stay silent anymore. I cannot be complacent anymore," unquote. Of course, this is the end result of the dishonest propaganda that's been fed about climate change. Most probably, the young woman in question wouldn't be able to volunteer 10 sentences about the subject, nor be able to properly define what she was protesting against. But this is the point we've reached. If young people are encouraged to believe that if nothing is done, the world is going to end, and they're inheriting a world which denies them the benefits which we have enjoyed, then emotions will be stirred. Now, of course, there is no justification for the violence and the social dislocation caused by the blockade. Sad though it may be, the young woman has been arrested because she believes all this stuff that's been fed to her. And this is where we end up. Apparently 10 arrests were made, and we're told that there are new anti-protest laws aimed at deterring protests that disrupt roads and ports and other infrastructure. The penalty is up to $22,000 or 2 years in jail. I've no doubt that the young people involved yesterday knew nothing about the new laws, and most probably would be comforted by the bleeding hearts who make up the various human rights groups who argue that such laws are draconian and, quote, incompatible with the democratic right to protest, unquote. More propaganda, more untruths. No one is denying people the right to protest. But if you're going to march in the streets of capital cities, you ought to have to first secure appropriate approval so that the protest does not selfishly disrupt others going about their lives.